सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। The topic of discussion this morning is conquering the inner enemies. Conquering the enemies, inner enemies. There are external enemies with whom we are familiar, but then there are also enemies within our own self, and it is quite likely that when I look upon someone as my enemy, that may have something to do with the fact that there are inner enemies. That is what creates enmity with others also. An enemy is the one who is determined to harm you, hurt you. So there are some factors, forces, impulses which harm us, hurt us. Which means that for a human being, it is quite likely that I as a human being may hurt myself. It is also possible that I can help myself. So both these are possible for me as a human being, that I can help myself or I can hurt myself. I can be a source of happiness to myself, or I can be a source of unhappiness to myself also. In fact, we can go to the extent of saying that the only one that makes me happy is myself, and only one that makes me unhappy is also myself. It may be difficult to accept this statement that I am primarily the entity or person who hurts myself, because it is my conclusion that the world around me hurts me, the world around me makes me happy, and the world around me also makes me unhappy or hurts me. This is my conclusion. And therefore, all the time, I am striving to rearrange the world around me rearrange the world in the form of my family, my friend, social connections, my employment, and various other things. I am generally preoccupied with rearranging. This is what is called world. What I confront is world. So right now, you are the world for me, I am the world for you. As the situation will change, the world I encounter also will change. One requirement I surely have, one requirement, and that is I am happy or comfortable if the world around me is comfortable. If the people around me, the situations around me are conducive, then I'm comfortable, I'm happy. People are not conducive, situations are not conducive, I find myself unhappy. I find myself happy, I find myself unhappy. Which means that there are entities or factors or forces that make me happy or that make me unhappy. This is the conclusion that we have, and based on this we are living our life. When would I be happy? When the world, which may be my family, which may be my friends, which may be my society, which may be my place of work and various situations, if that world is conducive, then I'm happy. If that world is not conducive, I'm unhappy. We are living our life based on this assumption. And therefore, we are usually attempting, as I say, to rearrange the world to make it convenient, comfortable, conducive, agreeable to me. But here, the fact that we have a topic like conquering inner enemies shows that there can be enemies within me also. Not only that there are, or that I think that there are enemies outside me, but this statement says that there are enemies within me also. In the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah. My own self can be my bandhu or a benefactor, and my own self can be my enemy or the one that hurts me, damages me. Atma, the self. The self can be the bandhu or benefactor, or the self can be an enemy, the one that destroys me, hurts me. And the teachers explain to us that what I think is an enemy out there is a notion created in me because of the enemy that is within me. Otherwise, for a wise person, there is no enemy. There was a great person, Ajata Shatru, one for whom an enemy is not born, free from enemies. Like Yudhishthira was said to Ajata Shatru, no enemy. So it is possible that we can create a state of mind where, from our standpoint, there is no enemy. They're all friends. Everything is conducive. So this is a kind of objective or goal that Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta presents before us. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu, atmaiva ripuhu atmana. Atma, my own self, is my bandhu, my benefactor, my friend. My own self is my enemy. Which self is my benefactor? Which self is my friend? Which self is my enemy? Again, Lord Krishna says, Bandhuratma atmanasasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmasu shatrutve vartayat atmaiva shatruvat. One who has mastered his mind, for him that self is always a friend or a benefactor, and one who has not mastered the mind, meaning that one for whom the mind is controlled by others. So, two situations can be there. When I control my mind, or my mind is controlled by some factors other than myself. So one who has gained a control or a mastery over the mind, for that individual, the mind or the self is a friend, is a benefactor. One who has not controlled, one for whom the mind is not under his control, his or her control, for that one, the self itself becomes as though an enemy, acts like an enemy. My own self, my own mind acts like an enemy. I tell my mind, come on mind, perform worship. No. I want to study. No. I want to study. My mind says I want to watch TV. I tell my mind I want to observe. I want to be a vegan. My mind says no. I love the dairy. I love ice creams. I love candies. I love those things. So it's not unusual that we like to do a certain thing or we like not to do a certain thing. The mind does not necessarily support us. Very often it happens that my mind drags me in a direction quite contrary to where I want to be. So it's important to understand our own personality, which is within ourselves. To explain this, an Upanishad called Kathopanishad says that our life is like a journey or like a pilgrimage. So when we undertake a pilgrimage, how there is a destination, a shrine that we want to reach. And usually, for carrying out a journey, we would have a vehicle. We ride a vehicle, it may be a car, a bus, train, etc., to reach our destination. In the Vedic times, there were no cars, no trains, there were chariots. Chariot is a vehicle drawn by horses. In a chariot, there is the driver called charioteer. There are horses that pull the chariot. And the driver has the reins, R-E-I-N-S, reins, with which the driver controls the horses. That's the setup. And The master of the chariot rides the chariot. He doesn't drive the chariot. Just as when we wish to reach a destination, you ask for Uber or taxi. So we ride the taxi, we don't drive the taxi. And whether I reach my destination or not will be determined by taxi driver rather than by me. I used to say that Rome, Italy is very famous for taking you for a ride. So when you come out of the airport at Rome and you hire a taxi and you say, I want to go to such a hotel, the hotel can be right across the street and he can give you around the whole town and bring you back. Meaning that it is not the master of the taxi which is you, or master of the chariot that decides how the chariot runs, where the chariot reaches, is decided not by the one who rides the chariot, not by the master of chariot, by the combination of the charioteer, the driver, and the horses. So this is a simile given by the Upanishad. It says, Atmanam rathinam vidhi shariram rasamevatu buddhim tu sarasam vidhi manah pragrahamevacha indriyani hayan ahu vishayam steshu gocharam. Imagine that, so there is a chariot, this body is in the place of chariot. Our sense organs of perception are in the place of the horses. Our intellect is in the place of the driver, the charioteer. This charioteer has reins with which he seeks to control the horses. The mind is a rein, mind. In ordinary situation, the rein is an inert thing, therefore the rein doesn't do anything of its own. But your mind is rein, therefore mind has its own mind. Normally when a charioteer signals a horse with the help of the rein, then horse gets a signal that the charioteer wants to convey. Suppose the rein was a live thing, suppose, has its own mind and can do what it wants. In that case, even when the driver gives signal to the horse is the rein may decide what order it wants, what command it wants to give. Charioteer wants to give one command. Tell the rein, hey, come on, tell the horses. The rein says, well, I will decide what to tell. So that is the situation in our life. This is imagery given by the Upanishad. Beautiful imagery of understanding our own self, understanding our own personality. That our personality is made up of the body, like a chariot, which is the very base upon which everything is connected. The eyes, ears, the faculty of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, they are all like the horses. Why are these sense organs called horses? What do the horses do? In a chariot, what do the horses do? I'm asking you. In a chariot, you know what a chariot is?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God. No, because in the modern times they may not know that a chariot is an ancient thing. So what do the horses do in a chariot? They move. What else? How would you describe the function of the horses or horse in a chariot? They run, that's true. But if the horse is running independently, it may not be in chariot also. They pull the chariot. What do the horses do? They pull the chariot. Here also, when I'm sitting here, right across there, I see some ice creams being displayed there on the table. My mouth starts watering. My eyes see the ice cream. Mouth starts watering. And slowly, while the meditation is going on, when everybody's eyes are closed, I can quietly get up from my chair, reach out to the ice cream. They're all meditating. So my body was pulled from this place to that place by what? By my eyes or by my palate. Is it not so? So even sense organs may not look like horses, but they play the role of horses in as much as they pull the body. When you go to a supermarket also, we are pulled. See something? Go there. See something? Even when you're walking out on the street, the many things are displayed, in the glass cases and you see outside. We go in the store. In the store also go to a given section and all that. Who decides where the body goes? Not the body. Who decides that? The eyes, etc. So therefore in this imagery, the sense organs of perception are compared to horses. And horses have some attractions. When the chariot is running on the track, if there is a ground with green grass on the side, the horses see that green grass, is likely that horses may take law in their own hand. Because they have attraction towards green grass. Horses only have attraction to green grass, nothing else. But here we have attraction for tasty food, attraction for pleasant sounds, for beautiful forms, for soft touch, for great fragrance. We have so many things. That is why these 5 organs of perception are called compared to horses in their imagery. Buddhim, the Saraswatiji Buddhi. God has given us a chariot here also called Buddhi. Buddhi means intellect. So what's the role of intellect in our life, What does intellect do?
It guides us towards certain direction.
It guides us. Before guiding, should the intellect do something?
Take decision.
Yeah, when your before they guide you 300 meters, make a right. Before that it must think, is it not so?
Yeah.
It has so many options available. It can go straight, left, right. So it must think. 300 meters, make a right. Why not left?
That's not the right direction.
Huh? What makes it right direction?
What's the goal based on that?
What is the destination? Right. That is why you first plug the destination. then it guides you. Left, right, straight, there's 300 meters extra. Drive 9.8 miles on this road, etc. So the GPS does all of that. The thinking. So it takes into account various options available and comes to a conclusion. This is what intellect does. In our mind also, intellect takes into account various options available, determines pros and cons, and then comes to a decision. So you're right, the intellect guides us, but guides us in this manner. And you say, what turn do we make when we go to an intersection, depending upon what our destination is. So destination is always kept in mind while making various decisions. That is what the role that intellect plays in our life. It analyzes, it discriminates, it determines what is right and what is wrong and makes a choice. Buddhim tu sartham viddhi. Thus, in the chariot of our life, the buddhi or the intellect is in place of a charioteer or a driver. Manah pragrahami. But understand that the intellect does not live life. We have two faculties. We have intellect and the mind. In Sanskrit, buddhi and manah. Buddhi, intellect, discriminating faculty, makes choices and comes to decisions. But it is not the intellect that lives life, it is not intellect that interacts with the world, it is the mind that interacts with the world. Understand this. We may think and decide something, but we may not necessarily do that. Do you find that sometimes happening? So this is a faculty called mind. Intellect is the determining, deciding, analyzing, deciding faculty. And mind is a faculty that carries out the instruction of the intellect. It is likely that mind may have its own agenda and therefore may or may not carry out what the intellect wants. Suppose GPS has a mind of its own. In this case, GPS is a mechanical thing. In a regular chariot, the reins are mechanical thing, therefore they exactly convey what the charioteer wants to convey to the horses. But imagine that the rein or the GPS has its own mind. You plug the destination. Suppose GPS is its own agenda. And that decides where it wants to take you. You may not even know that you are being taken for a ride to a wrong place. You may not even know, isn't it? So here one more complication is there. Mind is a faculty that takes directions from the intellect. And that mind in turn gives direction to the horses, the sense organs of perception and action. The actual actions of vyavahara means interacting with the world. I have 5 organs of perception, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, with which I receive the stimuli from the world. 5 organs of action with which I give response to the world. That's how our life is. So when the stimuli come to the world, the mind synthesizes that and tells intellect what it is so and so, is my friend, watch out, a stranger, watch out. The mind makes all these decisions and then tells the intellect. So intellect only makes decision based on the data given by the mind. Mind will decide friend, then intellect will decide one way. Mind says enemy, intellect decides in a different way. So one that interacts with the world is not the intellect, one that interacts with the world is the mind, is an emotional faculty, feeling faculty, So intellect is a thinking faculty, determining faculty, deciding faculty, but the mind is emotional faculty. It is mind that in fact interacts with the world. We live our life based on the mind, not on the intellect. Meaning that we may have wonderful ideas, understanding, etc. While actually interacting with the world, it is not those ideas that really play the role, it is what the mind thinks that plays the role. If mind is obedient, then does what the intellect does, we are okay. Mind is not obedient. Mind is its own mind. Mind its own agenda. It is quite likely that mind might do things that are quite contrary to what, in fact, intellect thinks. We have great values. I can give you great lectures on values I am giving you right now. What is truthfulness? What is honesty? What is compassion? That's intellect. But actually interact with you, and when you are suppose serving me food, etc., no, I don't want this. Oh, you may serve the food not here. Hey, not there. Put it here. So the person who is functioning is a different person from the one who gave lectures, You must be kind, you must be compassionate, you must be patient. Who says that? Intellect says that. But then when you do something and I react to you, don't you know this? Such a simple thing. Not here. Put it there. Who is that time doing the vyavahara? Who is saying? It is a mind that is saying that. Very often there may not be a harmony between the intellect and the mind, in which case when I am talking and I am a very intelligent, wise person, but when I am interacting with the world, I could be quite a different person. When you're growing up in our town, school, our teachers are all very highly respected by the students. For you, teacher is something. One evening, we friends were going for a walk, and one of my friends, a very smart fellow, he pointed out to me, look, some people are sitting there on the sidewalk. I would not have noticed. See the third person from the left? You know who is he? So and so, our teacher. They were playing cards and maybe gambling. This fellow drew my attention. Who is that person? There is such and such teacher. Wow, my teacher? So teacher, when teaching in the class, is one entity. I should not really talk about teacher as such, but then I just remember that experience. Once when we went for shopping, the vegetables with my father, oh, my teacher. You know what I found? He picked up one eggplant, put it in his bag. What? My teacher doing this? What I am saying, that can be quite a difference between the walk and the talk. The talk is one thing, walk is different thing. So, walk the talk. When that is not so, the talk is one thing, that's what the intellect does. The walk is different thing what the mind does. The mind can do things that are very damaging to me. That is why this imagery of a chariot. And who are we? Atma, this Jivatma, this individual, I am the master, but I have no role to play. I am riding the chariot. where the chariot will lead, or that destination determined not by me, by the charioteer, by the driver, who has to make the choices. Therefore, the charioteer, the driver, the intellect is the most important faculty in our personality. Because that is the one who has to make decisions in every situation. You know about human beings. As human beings, we have free will. And take it on my word that we have free will. Now don't debate that. So, do we have free will? I'm telling you it is there. If you ask questions, then we'll explain to you. But that is sitting itself shows free will. We could have been on this beautiful day, we could have been elsewhere. Is it not so? And you have chosen. Some people chose to be here, others chose to be elsewhere, because we have choice. Dogs have no choice. You throw the ball, it will run and bring it back. If you train it that, throw this way, no choice. Although it seems to be doing things, but it's programmed. You can program. Human mind is not programmed because we have a choice. Since we have the free will or the faculty of choice, it becomes very important that we should make the right choice. You follow? A dog does not have free will, therefore it always makes right choices. A cow has no free will. Put grass before a cow and meat before a cow has no conflict at all. It will eat grass without conflict. The owner of the cow can have a conflict. Whether to eat grass, vegetable, or to eat something else. Cow has no conflict. So the human beings that we are gifted with the faculty of free will, a freedom to choose. Kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyatha kartum shakyam, it is said. It is possible for me to choose to do a thing. I can choose not to do something, or I can choose to do as I like. I can climb down these steps and walk. I can jump from here and walk. I can roll and reach there. I can run and reach there. I can do anything that I want. I may not do, but I can. So we have this faculty of choice, free will, which is the great freedom that we have to determine the kind of life that we live. But when there is freedom, there should also be responsibility. The freedom without responsibility becomes a license. That freedom becomes damaging. The freedom really becomes a blessing when the freedom is accompanied with responsibility. Therefore, human being, we should have also a sense of responsibility. When we have the freedom to make choices, we have the responsibility to make the right choice, because if we are not, we can equally make a wrong choice, and thus we can hurt ourselves. When we make a right choice, we help ourselves. Make a wrong choice, we hurt ourselves. That's why we say, for a human being, it is possible that he or she may help himself or herself, or can hurt the self. Therefore, to make right choices becomes a responsibility. That's what the charioteer, the intellect, has to do. That's why all the education, we should have viveka, discrimination. But as we say, it's not the intellect that lives a life. Who lives a life? The mind does. and the mind gets the direction from the intellect to carry out its activities. But the mind here is a live faculty, therefore the mind may follow the direction of intellect, or mind may not follow the intellect. Imagine steering wheel has its own mind. Imagine. In our car, thank God the steering wheel follows my instruction. Suppose steering wheel has its own mind. And I turn the wheel to make right and that fellow decides to make left. Suppose. Can you imagine that situation? You are driving the car and you want to make a left turn and that's how you turn your steering wheel. But steering wheel is its own agenda. It wants to go to the restaurant, suppose. Wants to eat pizza. You want to come home and that fellow wants to go there. And therefore, you think that you are making left, the steering can make a different turn. Imagine that. Thank God it's not so. And just as I was told, Swamiji, in course of time, no steering wheel at all. That meant that but then here, our mind is like a steering wheel, which has its own mind, meaning that even though I tell the steering wheel to make a right turn, the steering wheel can decide to make a different turn. That is what makes our life rather complicated. The intellect tells the mind, come on now, we want to do this. I want to go to school this morning. I want to go to retreat this morning. The intellect says, because it has a value. The mind says, I'm sorry, I want to take one more hour of sleep. Poor intellect goes to sleep. Who decides? The mind decides. Meaning mind decides whether to follow the instruction of intellect or not. And therefore, it is our responsibility to create an alignment or harmony between the intellect and mind, between buddhi and mana, to create an alignment. If there is not there, then there is a difference between walk and talk. The intellect talks, the mind walks. And so this is very famous, walk the talk. And further, even when the mind and the rein gives direction to the horse has its own mind. Now this third variable here. Horse has its own attraction to the grass, and therefore even the rein, the lagam says, make a right, that fellow goes left. Who? The horse is a live entity. You follow our life? So intellect makes a decision and conveys it to the mind. The mind, if it is well trained, then it may follow that instruction, otherwise it may not. Even the mind gives instruction. If the horses are not trained, they may make their own decision because they see grass and they go this way. You see the life complication here? So what we need is a harmony or alignment between the charioteer, the rein, and the horses, the intellect, the mind, and the sense organs. If all of these are in alignment, and right alignment, not wrong alignment, then the chariot of life runs smoothly and it will move in the direction of destination. Otherwise, intellect doesn't know how to think rightly, it makes wrong decisions. The mind is impulsive, therefore doesn't follow instruction of intellect. Horses are not trained, therefore they are untrained horses may go anywhere they want. Upanishad says, this fellow winds up in a ditch. The chariot winds up in a ditch. And we see many people their life is in a ditch and we may be halfway, The only one who has successfully driven this chariot of life is one who has reached the destination, which each one of us has. Understand that even though our personalities are different, our intellects are different, the minds are different, the sense organs are different, everything is different. But we have only one goal. Every human being has one goal. What's that goal? What is that goal? What goal does human being have? To reach our destination. What is that destination? Happiness. Moksha, call it. Yeah, so happiness is simple. But you can add one adjective, unconditional happiness. Happiness we do get. This morning, delicious breakfast, happiness. This is called conditional happiness. How long can I enjoy the breakfast? As much as my stomach allows. Oh, Swami, I'm sorry, I wish I could eat some more, but I cannot. My stomach doesn't allow. The stomach may allow, my palate may not allow. Kya bana hai? What is that? And so, even if I get fine happiness and enjoying my breakfast, it is subject to many conditions. What's the condition? The food I like. My stomach is receptive to food. The person who is serving the food also I like. Is it not so? Not only I like the person serves me in a manner that I like. So many conditions are there. You may not know and I may not express it. When all the conditions are satisfied that the food is good and served properly, don't put it here. So where the food should be put, what kind of plate it should be, where it should be put, how it should be arranged, what the taste should be. When all the conditions are satisfied, then I can enjoy the food. Is it not so? We don't always enjoy the food. Even if everything is good, the one who is serving me looks at me like this, All my appetite is gone. One of our, aged devotees used to tell us, there are community feasts, community feast. Some of you may not know, those are born and brought up here. But in India, we have community feast. A given community meets once, twice, several times a year and has feast. And very good food is prepared and there are volunteers who serve. Sometimes what happens is they run out of some item, like kheer. So when this one is the instruction, some people, that is why the volunteers who are chosen for serving food are special people, not you and I. We don't know how to do that. They should know what is inside, how much is what, and then now it is run. Now that the kheer, they are running out of it. So this fellow goes, kheer, the way he says that fellow gets intimidated. No, I don't know. You can do that way. What kheer? I don't know. So how it is served also is important, understand? All I am saying, how many conditions should be satisfied before I enjoy that, get that happiness? It's called conditional happiness. Happiness which depends upon fulfillment of many conditions for it to take place. We accept it because we have no choice. What we would like is that I would like to have unconditional happiness without any conditions. Not possible, Swami. You can't enjoy. You like the food or don't like the food. You like the person, don't like the person. Even that doesn't remain, suppose. I'm comfortable with every person, with every food, whichever way it is served, piled up now, whatever it is done. Suppose all of that does not disturb me, that all of that I'm equally comfortable. Suppose, imagine, it's hard to imagine. Suppose I'm comfortable with every situation and everything, suppose. That happiness is unconditional happiness. You know, difference between conditional happiness and unconditional happiness. What we are seeking in life is unconditional happiness. We settle with conditional. What can you do? I'm stuck with that. You got married. That's what you are. Stuck with that. Look forward to my children. All right, I have the children. But then that unconditional and the freedom from condition, does it depend upon the outside situation or does it depend upon me? It is all conditions placed by my mind, understand? I like that person. They should serve me, not this person. This plate I like. Swami should be served in a silver plate. What plate have you brought? All understand that all conditions are placed by my mind. Upon the things around me, I impose the conditions and then I enjoy or I suffer. Is it not so? So what is meant by unconditional happiness is that I don't put any condition, then everything is okay for me. Isn't it so? Things are not okay because I put conditions. How things should be is what I demand, and that is why things are not what I want them to be. Suppose I don't make any demands. Suppose. No demands. No conditions. Everything is in order. Everything is all right, suppose. And happiness is unconditional happiness. Meaning that to transform happiness from conditional happiness means what? It may happen, not happen, come and go, unpredictable, short-lived. All of that conditions, understand, are placed by me, not by the world, and therefore I have the freedom to enjoy unconditional freedom. What do I need to do? I let go of all conditions. You understand the scheme of life? Understand the very fundamental things in our life. I create happiness for me, I create unhappiness for me. I create unhappiness by imposing conditions. It will be like this, not like that, like this. Then I suffer. Or I have the freedom to let go of all conditions. I can enjoy things as they are. Right now I can enjoy them only when they are all spiced up properly. They should dress up properly, talk properly, walk properly. So, in order for me to get moksha, unconditional freedom, I don't need to change anything around me. What I need to do is change myself. In what way? By letting go the conditions. So conditional happiness is because I have placed conditions upon happiness, and the same happiness can become unconditional when I let go of the conditions and demands and expectations. That's all. Understand the scheme of life. And how I become my own enemy, I can see how I am depriving myself of that happiness by placing conditions. Not here, just put it here. Not that way, this way. And when that does not meet my condition, I just get upset. So I get upset not because the world makes me upset. I get upset because of the conditions I place upon the world. I'm happy not because the world makes me happy. I'm happy because I've given up all my expectations, demands and conditions. So what is freedom? Freedom is freedom from all these demands, freedom from expectations, freedom from control. It's all internal process. Human being constantly tries to do things outside to become free. Vedanta teaches that what we need to do is to bring our internal transformation to become free. So understand the scheme of things called this chariot. At all levels we need to bring about a transformation. The intellect also we need to bring about transformation so it thinks right. In the mind we need to bring about transformation so that the mind follows the instruction of intellect. In the horses we need to bring about transformation. The horses follow what the mind says to them, the rein. So, the inner enemies. The intellect can become my enemy by wrong thinking. The mind can become my enemy by wrong behavior. And the sense organs can become also my enemies by an unbridled behavior. So therefore, at all levels, the organs of action and perception, the mind, the intellect, at all the levels, they can be my friend or they can be my enemies. So conquering inner enemies we said here. There are no enemies really. We turn an entity into an enemy. I mean, you just go and bombard somebody. Anybody, any person is an enemy, isn't it? Why do you bombard? My free will. Hey, you go to some other an independent country, and you go and you do this, otherwise I'll do that, you do this, So, these all problems are within. Anyway, I have no desire to discuss any politics or anyway. You don't know what's all going on there, and they never tell you what's going on. And I think I've discovered that my intellect is not sufficient to understand what is going on anywhere. Things are very, very, because. But just an example. So our program, in order to transform all of these fellows into my friends, my benefactors, that is what I have to do. And then the Vedanta teaches, it does not matter what the outside world is. A wise person who has just gained a mastery over himself is described by Lord Krishna. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he is called Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna. Sthita, Sthira, Prajna, Yasya Sa. One who has an abiding knowledge, Prajna, abides in wisdom. Wisdom about the realities of life. Wisdom does not mean he knows how many hair is there on my hair and how many stars are there and how many grains of rain. That is not necessary. Wisdom about the realities of life. This wise person is described. Dukkheshu anudvignamanaha sukheshu vigataspruhaha vita ragavaya krodhaha. What's the last line? The Bhagavad Gita study group. Which chapter is this? I quoted a verse from which chapter of the Gita? Oh, second chapter. Good. Which verse number? 53? No. It's my sweet will to trap you, or to If you answer one question, I can always complicate this. Which verse number? To say second chapter itself is a big thing, And now Swami, you say which verse number? If you ask me, I also may not know why then. In this case, I know, that's why I'm asking you. So from the verse 55 to verse 72, those last 18 verses of second chapter are devoted to describing a Sthita Prajna, wise person. In verse 54, Arjuna asks, what are the characteristics? From 55 to 72, how many verses are there? 55 to 72 means how many? We need a calculator. 18, that's good, yeah. Then Lord Krishna says, in verse number 56, Dukkeshu, now immediately check with Google and go inside. I can't get away bluffing here. Because people always have, wait, not Swami, not 56, 57. Thank you. Dukkeshu anudvignamanaha sukeshu vigataspruhaha vitaragavaya krodaha sthitati munihi uchyate. It's called a muni, a sage. May not have put on this clothes, any clothes. Lord Krishna does not describe a sage by the hairstyle that he has, or by his robes, or the color of the clothes that he is wearing. By his height and weight and beard, etc., that is not the description. What is inside? How that person has brought about transformation. The one has reached the destination. And destination is outside of ourselves, is within our own self. So this is a journey not from a point 1A in space to a point B in space. It's not a journey in space or time or condition. It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge, or from aviveka to viveka. Aviveka, lack of discrimination. Viveka, discrimination. Basically, it's what Vedanta teaches, viveka, discriminate. How to think right. So by living life conscientiously, consciously, one will just transform the self. Dukkeshu anudvignamanaha. In a situation that normally make us unhappy. For example, I fail in an endeavor. I have invested some money in the business, lost, dukkha, isn't it? Will anybody be unhappy? Is it not so? Not necessarily. Our Puja Swami used to tell us a story, which may have told you earlier, where a Stoic philosopher, a Greek philosopher, who was also a businessman, at one point in time he decided to relocate to another island in Greece, some far away, left his family here, and he himself relocated and then started a business there and did well. So now is the time when he can call his family because he can support them. So his family is coming in a big ship where all the household, everything is loaded. All his family members are there, wife and children are there, all his household things, everything is there, all his wealth is there. And now he's expecting them to arrive on any day. One afternoon, there is a knock on the door. Somebody is knocking. He was upset. Opened the door, and there is a messenger. It was a breathless messenger. What's the matter? Sir, your ship has sunk. What? The ship has sunk. So what? But sir, all your wealth, everything is drowned, if it's gone. What? It's all gone. So what? Sir, your wife and family is all drowned. You are all alone now. What? They're all drowned. So what? What? And so what? What's the difference? What means what? I don't believe you. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. So that's our first response. Don't tell me. I failed the examination. Don't tell me. I didn't get admission. Don't tell me. Anything that is unpleasant, we do not wish there and there, but the first response is what? Meaning what? I hope it's not so. I hope I have heard a wrongly. What? Disbelief. In a few seconds it is, so what? It happened. So what? Nothing I can do. I can't change. So what? It is called graceful acceptance. So here is a very wise person, I'm saying. In what reference am I saying this? In what we call a painful situation. Lord Krishna says those who do not get perturbed even in painful situations. There is no situation that can be called painful. We usually brand a situation as pleasant and brand it as painful. And of course, I will not say that there are for human beings certain things that are painful, like loss of a near and dear one is painful. Loss of business and that kind is painful. In that sense, this person is confronted with all the painful things. He has lost everything that he had. He has lost his old beloved and loved ones also. Certainly a painful situation. What? He says, so what? That so what shows his understanding of the reality of life. There are things that I can change, there are things I cannot change. God, give me the serenity to accept gracefully what I cannot change. There are many things, and most things which are not in our control. The attitude that God, give me the frame of mind, an attitude that I can gracefully accept what I cannot change. And there are things that we can change, give me the courage to change what I can. And give me the wisdom to know the difference. That's very important also. Have the wisdom to know the difference between what I can change and what I cannot change. Very often we struggle with things that we cannot change. Sometimes we don't do anything where we can change. Give me the wisdom to know the difference. So here the Stoic philosopher could say, things happen beyond my control. I cannot change them. They are no doubt painful. I cannot change them. Therefore, his response is, so what? Ishvara, God, that is your wish, acceptable to me. You also do that. We also accept, we also accept it. We accept it, but not gracefully. With reservation, with complaint, with resentment. So what is meant by graceful acceptance? There is no resentment in my mind. No resistance in my mind, no resentment. That shows a tremendous maturity of mind. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a result of a lifetime of work, which is what we are talking about. Wise person described as dukkheshu anudvignamanaha. One who does not get perturbed in even painful situations or what are normally considered painful situations. Sukheshu ekatasprabha. Then there are what are considered pleasant situations where we get elated. Then also we lose control over ourselves. No, one doesn't get elated, even in situations that are called pleasant. Vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. One is free from raga, bhaya, krodha, attachment, fear, anger. So these are the enemies that he has conquered. So here a description of a person has conquered those inner enemies. In this verse that I have quoted, Lord Krishna briefly describes those enemies. Vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. Vita, one from whom have gone away. Raga, bhaya, krodha. Raga means attachment. Bhaya means fear. Krodha means anger. So attachment, anger, fear, etc. are the inner enemies who normally control us, and therefore they normally decide what my response to a situation is. I don't decide. Very often it's anger that decides what I say. My attachment that decides what I do. Attachment. Like the same community feast. And you are a volunteer who are serving kheer, laddu, something. There is a row of people in the community. You know all of them. Some of them you may like. Some of them you may not like. Some whom you hate. I mean, that is how life is. So then when you are pouring kheer into that fellow's vessel, when comes your friend, your hand stops. Comes to other fellow we dislike, you just walk away as if you have not seen him. Hey! How this raga, bhaya, krodha, how they manifest in the life. This woman is recently married. She has gone to in-laws. And now it takes time, for the relationship bond to develop between the husband and wife. In India, you just get married. Here, of course, you know the person and you already bond is developed. So there is a head start, they call it. In India, that was not the case. That is not the case very often even now. So when this woman goes to her in-laws, she's not comfortable, doesn't know anybody. And therefore, now the brother has written that I am now visiting you on a given day. And she looks forward to the visit of her brother. My dear brother. And now the lunch is being served. Husband also is there. Brother also is there. And the khichdi, you know khichdi? At least in Gujarat, in khichdi, there is also a custom of some extra ghee. They pour ghee. So there is a heap of khichdi. In between you make a little void ghee. Some people like it. Don't do that to me because I'm just... Oh, some of you said ghee. Here it is. No, thank you. So this woman is serving. Her husband is there, with whom she is right now as yet, even acquaintance is not there. And brother, so he's serving ghee. You can see where the thing stops and pours. That's called raga, that's called attachment, which makes me a partial person. I favor the one to whom I'm attached, and I'm a disfavored person with whom I'm aversion. So a lot of our vivaha, a lot of what we do is determined by our attachments and aversions. With the raga, one is free from raga, attachment and aversion. And then there is fear, and then there is anger. Our inner enemies, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. How did he become a man of perfection, a wise person? By overcoming these fellows, the inner enemies, which Lord Krishna in that verse describes only in 3 words, raga, bhaya, krodha. Sadi, muni uchyate. He's called a man of abiding wisdom, he's called a sage. So this is a reward, that's a big reward. Who will otherwise want to do this, struggle so much to overcome this fellow? Let them be there. No. But when they are there, their enemies, meaning they are constantly damaging me, hurting me, make me unhappy. As I overcome them, slowly I help myself. I stop hurting myself. I start helping myself. My life becomes healthier, happier, and ultimately successful. Meaning that the reward of overcoming this inner enemy is a great reward. And unfortunately, when there is a choice between 2 roads, if you don't choose the right road, you are choosing a wrong road. That's the problem here. Suppose by not choosing right, you are all right. No, but when you do not choose right, you are choosing wrong. So we must make sure that we make right choices. Intellect has the right viveka and discrimination. So with this background, we'll discuss some of these enemies that we mentioned just now, and how we can bring about a harmony in our whole personality, which we described as consisting of the intellect, the charioteer, the mind, the rein, sense organs, the horses. So alignment or harmony among these makes you a person enjoying harmony, peace, happiness. Otherwise, if fellows keep on fighting within themselves, and they make my life miserable. I think it is my spouse that is making my life miserable. Maybe they can contribute, no doubt. They can contribute. No, they say pouring salt over the wound. Have you heard this? Pouring salt over the wound. They'll pour salt. But then that salt which is poured will create burning sensation, for there is a wound to begin with. There is no wound, let them pour the salt. So world can pour the salt. Merely salt cannot make me unhappy. Cannot create a sensation of pain or burning sensation. The salt also requires a cooperation from the wound, which is my role, and the freedom to heal that wound. Then the world can pour salt as much as they want. That's how this is called freedom. The real freedom that we need to acquire. We need political freedom, etc. There's no question about it. But after gaining all those freedoms, also what we need is that inner freedom, which assures us of the life of happiness and harmony. So with that, we'll take a break and continue in the next session.